What's happening, fam? I want to welcome you to the Lil J Show. Of course, I am Jay. I hope everybody is having a wonderful and blessed day. I hope it is amazing for you. Today, I want to do a video on my man's here, Dedrick Gobert, AkA Dooky from Boyz in the Hood. And this video is for entertainment purposes only. So, with that being said, let's get into it. But I do want to say this is going to be the first video to this channel right here. This is my first video to this channel. Thank you. Now, I do have another channel, but it's strictly like for cars, like when I go to car shows, car meetups, and also I'll put videos when I'm upgrading on my vehicle as well. So, but this is my first video. I'm trying to get to 25 likes and some thumbs up. I need some subs for this channel. So if you like the way I react to this video, and if you like the way I react to it and everything, hit the thumbs up, subscribe to the channel. I'm trying to bring you like some dope content, especially when what people want to hear. Like this thing right here, like they got this show. Remember that show used to come on? Where Are They Now? Well, we know where he is. So rest in peace to this young brother, man. I hate this happened. It was just over some nonsense, but let's get into it. I don't want to talk too much. Let's just get into it.
Here to die, threw up a set and stepped into a crowd that wasn't playing. Less than a minute later, it was all over. 2 on the ground, 1 paralyzed, and a name from a classic hood film splattered across the headlines. But before that night, before the blood in that parking lot, he was just another young dude trying to balance 2 different worlds: Hollywood dreams and South Central streets. This is the story of Dedrick Gobert, but don't get it twisted. This ain't no movie script. Dedrick Dwayne Gobert was born on November 25th, 1971 in Shreveport.
All right, so before we get all the way into it, it was another guy on there, the one that unalived Ricky Morris Chestnut. Remember where Cuba Gooden was running down the alley, Ricky? That guy. He was unalived a few years back over some nonsense, but they did say that he was heavy in the streets. Now, the little documentary that I seen, it said that he was portraying a gangster in the movies, and then he ended up bringing it into his real life, but we don't know that. We don't know if he was outside before he became an actor or what, but I want to do a video on him as well. I got to find me, some content to do a video on him as well. If I can find that documentary again, I'll get some clips from it and try to make this video.
Shreveport, Louisiana, a small city in the northwest corner of the state. Not much is out there about his earliest years, but at some point, he and his family packed up and headed west, landing in California. They settled in Inglewood, a city with deep black roots booming with soul, but back then, it was also heavy with gang politics and turf tensions. Inglewood in the 80s wasn't just sunny streets and lowriders. It was a place where murder rates were climbing, colors mattered, and just being on the wrong block could get you pressed. In 1989, the murder rate jumped 50% from the year before, 46 homicides that year alone, according to the LA Times. That put it just a few bodies short of its all-time high. This was where Dedrick came of age, a teenager watching the city shift. The soundtrack of his life wasn't just hip-hop and West Coast funk. It was sirens, shouts, and the pop of gunfire in the distance. And it wasn't just Inglewood. Right next door was South Central LA, Crip-heavy territory, thick with long-standing beef between Crips and Bloods. Inglewood leaned more toward the Blood side, but lines blurred quick. And even walking to school was a roll of the dice. One wrong glance, one wrong hoodie, one wrong answer to "where you from" could mean you didn't make it home. Dedrick wasn't some big-time banger. He didn't have tattoos spelling out hood names or rap sheets pages long, but growing up where he did, you couldn't help but soak in the code, who you nod to, who you don't, and when to keep your mouth shut. Still, he wasn't boxed in by it. Dedrick had other interests: film, music, cars, and like a lot of kids from the block, he started dreaming about something bigger, maybe even making it out. Somehow, through all the chaos, he landed on the radar of director John.
So rest in peace to this good brother too, John Singletary. He passed away a few years back from a stroke. But rest in peace to him as well.
John Singleton, who was casting for a gritty new film straight out of South Central, a film that would blur the line between fiction and reality. That connection, it would change Dedrick's life. But here's the thing: when you come up in the hood and catch a break, it doesn't mean you left the hood behind. Dedrick was still riding around with his homies, hitting up parties, and later, street races. The Hollywood light was there, yeah, but the shadows were still long. And before long, they'd catch up to him. In 1990, director John Singleton was fresh out of USC Film School and ready to make his mark. He had written a script that mirrored the South Central LA life he knew firsthand, and he wasn't about to cast polished Hollywood actors to play kids from the hood. He wanted authenticity, real faces from real streets. That's how Dedrick Gobert, just 19 at the time, landed a role in what would become one of the most iconic films of the 1990s, Boyz in the Hood. Singleton met Dedrick during the early casting process. Dedrick had the look, the presence, and the kind of laid-back energy that felt real. He didn't need to study street life for the role, he was already living it. Singleton offered him the part of Dooky, one of Doughboy's quiet homeboys who mostly chilled in the background, always with the pacifier dangling from his lips. The pacifier wasn't made up for the role either. According to some who knew him, Dedrick had actually started using pacifiers in real life to help quit smoking. Singleton thought it added character, so he kept it in the film, and it stuck. After Boyz in the Hood dropped in July 1991, Dooky's pacifier look actually started a short-lived trend. Teenagers from LA to New York began rocking pacifiers as fashion statements. Dedrick's role didn't have a lot of lines, but that didn't matter.
So my man started sucking on a pacifier to keep himself from smoking. And they went ahead and just let him keep sucking on it in the movie. And he said it started a trend. Short-term trend. So everybody was going to Walmart, Baby Toys R Us, trying to find pacifiers to suck on. All because of this young man right here.
His presence was part of the film's realism. He wasn't a loudmouth or a hothead. He was the quiet observer, sucking on his pacifier while violence, brotherhood, and tragedy played out around him. In a way, Dooky symbolized that numbness a lot of young black men felt back then, seeing everything, feeling everything, but keeping it all inside. Boyz in the Hood was a cultural earthquake. It brought the inner city experience to mainstream America with no sugarcoating. It earned Singleton Oscar nominations for Best Director and Best Original Screenplay, making him both the first African American and the youngest person ever nominated for Best Director. The film starred Cuba Gooding Jr. as Trey, Ice Cube as Doughboy, and Morris Chestnut as Ricky. But even the smaller roles like Dedrick's got noticed. That visibility opened doors. Singleton brought Dedrick back for his next two films. In 1993's Poetic Justice, starring Janet Jackson and Tupac Shakur, Dedrick played Dwayne, a friend of Tupac's character. It was a small role, but he shared screen time with hip-hop royalty. Then came Higher Learning in 1990.
I didn't know he was in Higher Learning. I didn't know that. I'm pretty sure he was in maybe a couple more movies that we just don't know. Well, I don't know about. But I did not know he was in Higher Learning. I'm going to have to go back and watch that. See if I can spot him up in there.
Where he appeared briefly as one of Ice Cube's college homies. That film would end up being released posthumously. So by the time he was 22, Dedrick had credits in 3 major films. He had worked with some of the most influential black creatives in Hollywood. And yet, despite this run, Dedrick never fully left the streets. And the streets, they never really let go of him either. Dedrick Gobert had one foot in the spotlight and the other still planted in Inglewood. To a lot of people, he wasn't Dooky from the movies. He was just Dedrick. He still kicked it with the same circle, still pulled up at the same house parties, and still moved through the same streets that had raised him. The early 90s in LA weren't just about gangbanging. They were about survival. The Rodney King beating in 1991 had set...
Look at that man's face, man. I mean, they whooped his tail, man, and that was for no reason. You know what I mean? It looked like he got a hole in his face. Yeah.
The city on edge. Then, the riots in April '92 blew the lid off. South Central burned, National Guard tanks rolled through Crenshaw, and the line between law and lawless got blurry. It was during that same stretch that Dedrick was filming with Singleton
and this is the one right here. The one I was telling you about. Now someone took his life. I can't say when, but this is when I was saying that I want to do a video on him too, because his life was pretty interesting.
Building his acting resume. But when the cameras weren't rolling, the tension outside was still real. During this era, a temporary truce between gangs in Watts and other areas gave people hope. Murders dipped in some hoods for a while, and Singleton even wore a baseball cap with the slogan, "Increase the peace," during press tours. But the peace didn't last everywhere. By 1994, Louisiana County was reporting record numbers again. According to Los Angeles Times reports, gang killings in sheriff-patrolled areas reached 218 that year, higher than even the bloody highs of 1991. Dedrick was navigating this storm with a dream in one hand and reality in the other. He wasn't balling off Hollywood checks. Those roles paid decent, but not enough to get a young actor out the hood entirely. So he stayed connected, not necessarily as a gang member, but as someone still living in the orbit. You feel me? And like a lot of young dudes in LA back then, he got into the street racing scene. Illegal drag races had always been a thing, especially late at night, far out in spots like Mira Loma or Palmdale. These weren't fast and furious setups. These were dusty back roads, headlights flashing, crowds placing bets, engines screaming. It was adrenaline, escape, and ego all rolled into one. That's how Dedrick spent some of his downtime, hitting races with...
So how many of you guys ever went to a little street race, illegal street race, car meetups? Some of them are really, fun, interesting, especially when there's no drama, being involved, nobody's fighting, everything just goes smooth. I mean, I like that late night street racing. It's pretty cool. I can dig it.
With his girlfriend Jenny Hyon and his homie Ignacio Nacho Hernandez. They weren't looking for trouble, but when the streets are watching, trouble usually finds you first. Dedrick was still young, just 22, and while he had tasted the dream, he hadn't made it all the way out yet. He still had plans. Higher learning was wrapped. Maybe more roles were coming. Maybe music videos, maybe commercials, maybe even TV. But when you're still half in, half out, that's when it gets most dangerous, because you're not fully protected by either world. To some, Dedrick was Hollywood. To others, he was still just some dude from Inglewood. And sometimes both sides expect you to prove something. The story that would unfold next wasn't written in a script. It didn't have a director yelling cut. It was raw, fast, and final. And Dedrick wouldn't survive it. By the time 1994 rolled around, Los Angeles was still reeling from a decade of chaos. The crack epidemic, turf wars, and high-profile police brutality cases had left scars across the city. The gang truces that followed the 1992 LA riots were starting to fade, and the streets were heating back up. Sheriff Sherman Block told the Los Angeles Times that the shift in violence was noticeable. Drive-bys were down, but more walk-up shootings, straight confrontations, more personal. In the parts of LA,
I hate really, the violence, period. And especially when, people start pulling out things and start letting them go. But if anything, it's better to have somebody to walk up on you and do that to you than to have a drive-by and then you got all these innocent people getting hit up, for no reason. Just out trying to enjoy themselves, have a good time, and then come up hit. That drive-by stuff is crazy.
LA County, patrolled by the Sheriff's Department, Gang killings hit 218 in 1994, the highest ever recorded there. Some of the worst hit areas weren't the central city, but places like Mira Loma, Palmdale, and unincorporated zones where deputies, not LAPD, had jurisdiction. Racial lines in the gang world were also blurring. While Crips and Bloods still dominated headlines, other crews like the Asian Boyz, Tiny Rascals Gang, and Filipino-American cliques like ABC, AkA Boyz Crazy were growing fast. These weren't just copycats. They had their own codes, alliances, and sets. In Southern California, a red rag didn't always mean black. ABC, for example, repped blood culture, but was almost entirely Filipino. The streets weren't just dangerous for those in the life. Sometimes being affiliated by association or even just being present could get you caught up. Tension.
Yeah, I know. Like I said, man, I done been in some areas, man, where we be walking down the street, man, going to see something, go hook up with some of my partners, and they be like, hey, cuz, who you is? Where you from? Like, oh, come on, man, serious.
Between Asian gangs and Latino crews were rising, and even within blood-affiliated groups, internal beefs broke out. South LA might have been the heart of gang activity, but places like Riverside County were becoming battlegrounds of their own. And Dedrick Gobert, he was still out there, floating between movie sets and the back streets. He was wrapped on Higher Learning, which would drop posthumously in January '95, and had time to breathe. So when his homie, Ignacio Hernandez, mentioned a street race happening on a cool Saturday night, November 19, 1994, Dedrick rolled out. He probably didn't think twice. Street racing was a regular thing. Loud cars, long roads, some fast money changing hands, and a chance to unwind with friends, away from the cameras, away from industry talk. But the wrong combination of pride, gang ego, and a misunderstood gesture would flip the script that night. It was early evening when Dedrick, 22, headed out east with his crew. With him were Ignacio Nacho Hernandez, his 16-year-old girlfriend Jenny Hyon, and their homegirl Mel Uleris. They drove about 50 miles from LA to Mira Loma in Riverside County, a semi-rural area where street racers could gather without much police heat. The scene was typical: two-lane stretches of road, car engines popping off, headlights lined up like a drag strip, and small clusters of people placing side bets. That night, there were about 40 people posted up on Etiwanda Avenue. Dedrick and his circle weren't looking for stats.
See, that's a good little crowd. You got 40, 50 people lined up, want to see some cars get down. You know what I'm saying? Ain't too many people thinking about fighting or something happening. They trying to see some street car action, just out having a good time. Like, I've been to a few of them. I like it, and of course my father, when I was a young kid, he used to drag race. I've never seen him do any street racing, but he was, always at the track, maybe every other weekend. I like drag racing, and it's just, like I said, 40, 50 people out there enjoying themselves, kicking it with the homies. Maybe trying to holler at a couple females, something like that, you know what I mean? And these guys are on some crashing out type shit.
Static. But during one of the runs, Ignacio's car got cut off by another driver, a Filipino teen, according to court testimony. Both cars screeched to a halt, and words got exchanged. Heated words. The Filipino youth had his squad behind him, around 10 deep. When the shouting turned to shoving, they surrounded Ignacio. Dedrick stood nearby. Fists flew. The fight didn't go long. Sirens broke it up. Sheriff's deputies had been tipped off about illegal racing in the area and rolled through, lights flashing. The crowd scattered. Nobody arrested. Dedrick's group left the race spot and dipped a few miles down to a pizza parlor parking lot to cool off. It was past 2 a.m. The food spot was closed, but the lot was quiet enough to talk things over. But unknown to them, the group they clashed with earlier wasn't done. And they weren't just random dudes. They were part of ABC, a Filipino-American gang tied to the Bloods. Some of their crew had already been involved in the earlier altercation. Now they had regrouped, bringing in more heads. Some estimates say 15 to 30 of them had linked up. As Dedrick and his people stood outside their ride, the ABC crew rolled up. There was yelling right away. One younger member allegedly pulled a strap and pointed it at Jenny's face. She froze, but an older gang member stepped in and told the younger dude to fall back.
My man pulled out his little steel and pointed at a female. Now, if that don't tell you something, like this dude is, one, they partners is absolutely ready to crash, don't give a damn about nothing. I mean, boy, Bloody Hound Joe, that man say he's down to do it to women, kids, everybody, anybody getting in his way. It's crazy how people can do things like that and still go home and eat and sleep like nothing happened, and knowing that they've took somebody, a young child, female, somebody's grandmother, just, it's just crazy.
Male tried to calm everyone down, saying it wasn't worth it, and for a second it looked like it might de-escalate. Dedrick got back in his car, but instead of leaving, he started driving slowly past the group. He revved the engine, back and forth, classic hood move. Not necessarily a threat, but definitely a challenge. He was hot, maybe trying to prove a point, maybe thinking it would blow over. That's when the chant started. Blood, blood, blood. The ABC crew was deep, hyped, and now fully claiming set. Dedrick stopped the car, stepped out, and walked right up to the crowd. No backup, just him. Witnesses said he threw up a Crip sign, asked, "What's up, cuz?" That one word, cuz, was a serious diss to any blood set. Then he yelled, "F you, slobs, I ain't scared to die."
Oh, damn.
Now, whether Dedrick was really a Crip or just talking reckless isn't fully clear. Some said he seemed drunk, others said he was just wilding off adrenaline, but in gang culture, those words and that move, that's enough to get anybody hit. Someone yelled, "He's reaching," when Dedrick moved toward his waistband. Whether he had a weapon or not didn't matter at that point. They rushed him. He was jumped instantly, feet, fists, knees, a full-on mob attack. Ignacio saw him go down and ran in, throwing his own body over Dedrick to shield him. Jenny and Mel tried to break through, screaming, swinging, doing whatever they could. Jenny caught a kick to the head. Witnesses said the beating started to slow. A couple of gang members were walking off. Then came the gunshots. Sonny and AkA, a 22-year-old Filipino immigrant and reputed ABC member, stood over the pile. He pulled a .38 caliber revolver. First, he grabbed Ignacio off Dedrick's back, point blank, shot him once in the chest, then again in the back of the head. Then he turned the gun on Dedrick. Dedrick was already bloodied and slumped, and AkA pulled the trigger again. One bullet right to the back of the head. Jenny Hyon, who had just turned 16, rushed toward him in a blind rage. She kicked AkA in the back. He turned and shot her too. The bullet hit the side of her neck.
What? He shot the. Oh my God! This dude, he's got to be on something. He got to be drunk. Or he got to be on some type of drug. He shot a female in the neck. Are you serious? And then all of this started because of what? The dude cut off Dooky's partner, and they got into it. Was it some money involved? It had to be some type of money or something involved for them to get into a fight because somebody gets cut off during a race. I understand, like, these racers, they do take that stuff serious, and maybe Dooky's partner, man, was probably getting ready to pass this dude and finna win the race, and the dude just didn't want that to happen. He wanted to be a sore loser, He wanted to dang cheat to win.
Everything scattered after that. Cars peeled off, bodies were left behind. When the sheriffs pulled up around 2:20 a.m., they found Dedrick and Ignacio dead. Jenny was still alive, but paralyzed from the neck down. Mel was bruised, but physically unharmed. And AkA fled the scene. It wasn't just another fight, it was a calculated gang move. Witnesses later said AkA showed no remorse. When one of his own homies asked why he shot the girl, he reportedly replied, "F them, they deserved it."
Yeah, he needed to be under the jail.
And just like that, Dedrick Gobert's life ended in the same kind of street violence he helped portray on film. No red carpet, no director yelling cut, just a cold stretch of pavement in Mira Loma. After the police rolled through Etiwanda Avenue and scattered the crowd, most folks dipped. Nobody wanted to be around for questions or citations. Dedrick, Nacho, Jenny, and Mel linked up a few blocks down at the parking lot of a local pizza spot. Not to grab a slice, it was already past 2 a.m., but to chill, debrief, and shake off the tension. They weren't looking to press the issue. Dedrick had just watched Nacho get jumped by 10 dudes, and the whole vibe was off. But the kind of folks they had run into earlier, they didn't just take an L and walk it off. That other group, they had something to prove. And that's when things started to turn. Unbeknownst to Dedrick and his people, the group they had clashed with at the race was already regrouping. Some of them had dipped right after the fight, but others.
What did they have to prove? What did they have to prove? I mean, it was already they had already outnumbered homie and his partner, man. You know, I'm pretty sure they probably jumped on his partner and they dipped and moved on down the road, probably to calm down, talk about the, you know what I'm saying, talk about it. And, you know, that is stuff because I'm pretty sure that he got jumped. And these guys, they were just out looking for trouble because, I mean, I think they already took the W, you know what I'm saying, by jumping him, which is really it's not a W because it wasn't a fair fight, but there was no reason for them to go and start looking for Dedrick, AkA Dooky, and his partner because they already had got the upper hand on them with them, you know what I'm saying? It was more than them. It was just 2 of them and it's 10 or 15 of the other people. You know, that's crazy.
Take on to call backup. Witnesses and later court testimony confirmed that several of the Filipino-American gang members from ABC had hit up more homies to slide through. They weren't planning to let the night end on a soft note. The ABC gang, AkA Boyz Crazy, was known in the area for being deep and not backing down. Based out of cities like Cerritos and Carson, a lot of their members were in the Inland Empire, and they had a strong presence in Miraloma. These weren't just some random dudes out for a race. They were a tight-knit clique repping blood culture. Even though they weren't black, red gear, set calls, and that same retaliatory mindset. Around 2:15 a.m., cars started pulling into the parking lot. At first, it was just a few, then more. Some pulled up blasting music, others parked dark, but the energy was off. Witnesses say the group that showed up this time wasn't just 10 deep. It was more like 20 to 30.
Wow.
Almost all Filipino. Some had red flags, some had visible tattoos, and some were already throwing up gang signs as they got out. They weren't trying to talk it out. They were here for part 2. Dedrick's crew was still outside the car when the group approached. It popped off quick, words first. One dude in particular stepped forward and pointed a gun at Jenny's face. He didn't fire, not yet. An older head from the same group checked him, pulled him back, told him to chill. That moment might have saved her life. Mel tried to play peacemaker. She spoke directly to the older gang member, asking him to let everyone go their separate ways. He agreed. For a brief moment, the tension dropped. Everyone started backing off, but Dedrick? He was still heated. He jumped back in his car and started doing slow laps across the lot. Not fast, not reckless, just revving the engine, creeping past the crowd, over and over. Anyone from the hood knows what that means. It's not an attack, but it's not peaceful either. It's a statement. Maybe Dedrick thought they would get spooked. Maybe he was trying to stunt, or maybe it was just adrenaline talking. But the crowd noticed, and they weren't having it. The ABC crew started.
I mean, the hell with all that. I mean, I could see they probably still heated and all that stuff, but hell, they was outnumbered, you know, and stunning and all that, he should have damn stunted his ass right on home and just damn tried to maybe catch up later, something like that. But he was outnumbered, so I don't see why he wanted to just keep escalating it, you know what I mean? The fight had already happened. You know, one of them already got the thing on him because they said he pulled it out and pointed it at one of the girls' head, which is crazy.
Started shouting, loud now, blood, 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 over and over, chanting like a war call. That's when the temperature really changed. Dedrick hit the brakes, parked the car. He stepped out alone. Eyewitnesses later said it was bold, reckless, or just plain suicidal, because standing in front of him was a crowd of over 24 gang-affiliated men, most of them already fired up, half of them armed. Dedrick didn't blink. He started walking toward them, chest out, no fear on his face. Then he raised his hands and threw up a Crip sign. He said, "What's up, cuz?" Now in South Central, that's regular Crip lingo. But when you're facing down a crowd repping blood sets, it's an open invitation for war. It's a diss. And it hits harder when it comes from someone who just got done circling you in a loud car like he's untouchable. Then he took it further. F you slobs. That word, slob, is the worst kind of slur in gang language when talking to Bloods. It ain't just disrespect, it's venom. And Dedrick knew it. Then he said it, "I ain't scared to die." At that moment, everything stood still. Nobody moved right away. Some of the ABC members reportedly laughed, like they couldn't believe what they were hearing. To them, Dedrick looked like he had a death wish. But the vibe flipped again when he reached for his waistband. That was it. One of them shouted, "He's reaching!" They swarmed him. He didn't get a shot off. He didn't even have a weapon. But in that world, you don't wait to find out. They jumped him on sight. He dropped to the ground under a wave of fists and kicks. Mel screamed. Jenny tried to run in. Nacho, seeing his friend getting stomped, jumped into the middle of the crowd and threw himself over Dedrick's body. He covered Dedrick with his own body. Real loyalty. Witnesses say Jenny caught a boot to the face while trying to protect her boyfriend. Mel was yelling, trying to pull folks back, but she couldn't stop it. Then for a second, it calmed. A few of the ABC members started walking away. Maybe they thought it was done. Maybe they figured Dedrick had been punished enough. Some said the energy shifted, like the worst was over. And then the gun came out. Sonny and AkA had been in the crowd the whole time. A known shooter from ABC, he was already on edge, high on meth, according to later reports. He pulled out a .38 revolver, walked up to Nacho, grabbed him by the shoulder, shot him in the chest, then a second shot to the back of the head. Dedrick was still lying face up, and AkA turned the gun on him and pulled the trigger. One shot to the head. Jenny, barely able to stand, rushed at AkA and kicked him. He turned and shot her point blank in the neck. She dropped. The lot went quiet. Everyone.
So tell me, I mean, oh my God, this is crazy. I mean, this is really uncalled for. I mean, it was uncalled for. They had already whooped on him, you know what I mean? Some of the guys, people was getting ready to go, you know, they like, fuck it. They ain't got no win, we didn't already put them hands on him. Buddy, I guess they said he's a well-known shooter. I mean, but what was the reason for him to pull his thing out and grab Dooky's partner and pull him over, hit him in the chest, and then hit him in the damn head too. Then turned around and looked at old boy, which is still on the ground. They said he was on the ground bloody, and he went and popped him too. That makes, I mean, come on. This dude, he has to be on something.
Everyone ran. Cars peeled off, tires screeching. In less than a minute, 2 were down, 1 paralyzed, and the crowd was gone. Just pavement, shells, and silence.
And see, he could have just, the girl kicked him in the back. He could have just shoved her, just pushed her. I mean, really, you gonna turn around and let it go on her? For what? I know she can't whoop you. Why would you do that? To a female. To a female now.
Around 2:20 a.m., Riverside County deputies pulled up. It was too late. Dedrick Gobert and Ignacio Hernandez were both pronounced dead on scene. Jenny Hyon was alive, barely. Paramedics rushed her to the hospital. The bullet had torn through her spinal cord. She'd never walk again. Dedrick Gobert, the quiet kid with the pacifier in Boyz in the Hood, was now another young man shot dead in the streets. The same kind of scene his movie tried to warn people about. But there were no credits this time, no audience clapping, only blood on the ground and sirens in the distance. News broke quick. The Los Angeles Times ran the headline, "Actor is one of 2 men killed in drag race fight." Most people didn't recognize Dedrick's name right away, but when they heard the guy with the pacifier from Boyz in the Hood, it clicked. John Singleton's team confirmed his identity. He had also just finished filming Higher Learning. set for release in January 1995, but Dedrick wouldn't be around to see it. Police got to work fast. Witnesses at the scene gave up names, descriptions, car types. One name kept popping up: Sonny and AkA, Filipino, 22, known shooter from the ABC gang. By December 12, 1994, less than a month later, AkA was arrested. He'd been hiding out, but tips led authorities to him. He claimed he wasn't involved, that he was with his girl that night. It didn't matter. Multiple witnesses from both sides ID'd him. Gang homies even flipped.
You see that? It say multiple witnesses from both sides ID'd him. Gang homies even flipped. They know that was uncalled for. They even turned on him. His own gang turned on him. So yeah, he did it. I mean, of course, they would probably tell them, look, if you know anything, you need to tell us, or like you gonna get pinned for some type of involvement in this crime too. So of course, what I'm saying, they flipped, but the way it went down, he had no reason to even pull this thing out whatsoever, because they had already got the win or whatever. They already jumped the dude, bloody, both of them laying on the ground. And I gotta say, Nacho, Dooky's partner, he is very loyal. I mean, because it ain't too many people that's finna just jump in the middle of a crowd while their partner is getting beat down and just jump on top of them to keep them from getting hit more. And there ain't too many people there to do that. So that was a good dude.
Lester Maliwat and Roger Boring gave up full accounts. They weren't trying to go down for murder. One by one, the pieces locked in. AkA had gang ties, a history of violence, and had allegedly been on meth that night.
I knew it. I told you. He was on something. It had to be for him to turn around and pop that girl in the neck because he kicked him in the back. Really? For some reason, he wasn't thinking about the consequences. So he had to be on something, some type of narcotic, all right? He was drunk, but now we know.
1999, almost 5 years later. But when it did, it hit hard. The DA built a rock-solid case, eyewitnesses, forensic evidence. Even gang experts came in to explain what certain phrases meant, how the provocations escalated, and why failure to respond would be seen as weakness in gang culture. Jenny Hyon testified. Now wheelchair-bound, she told the jury what happened, how she watched her boyfriend get stomped and shot, how she tried to stop it, how her life changed in a single second. AkA's lawyers tried to blame confusion, said he wasn't clearly ID'd, that he didn't mean to shoot, that it was chaos, but the evidence didn't lie. The bullet in Dedrick's head, the shell casings, the testimonies. On May 5th, 1999, the jury came back, guilty of 2 counts of first-degree murder, guilty of attempted murder for shooting Jenny, special circumstance, multiple murders. On May 12th, Sonny and AkA was sentenced to death. He was shipped to San Quentin, inmate number P48601. California's governor placed a moratorium on executions in 2019, so he still sits on death row today. But for Dedrick, for Nacho, for Jenny, the sentence had already been carried out. The damage was forever. The news hit hard. The guy with the pacifier from Boyz in the Hood had been murdered in real life. Dedrick Gobert was just 22 when he got dropped in that Miraloma parking lot. The same kind of senseless street violence his movie had tried to highlight ended up taking his life. Higher Learning, his last film, dropped a few months later in January 1995. He was barely visible in it, just one of Ice Cube's homies on campus. But that small cameo felt heavier knowing it was posthumous, a reminder of what could have been. Dedrick never got the big breakout role, he was just getting started, but Singleton kept calling him back, which meant something. You don't bring an actor into 3 different films unless you see real potential. Ignacio Hernandez, just 19, died trying to save his friend. Jenny Hyon, 16, survived, but the bullet left her paralyzed from the neck down. She testified in court, recounting the shooting, the pain, the damage. Sonny and AkA got arrested less than a month later, on December 12, 1994. He tried to deny it at first, said he was with his girl. But multiple people from his own set flipped, told detectives exactly what he did. In 1999, he was convicted of 2 counts of first-degree murder and 1 count of attempted murder. The jury handed him the death penalty. He was shipped to San Quentin's death row. But in 2019, California Governor Gavin Newsom placed a moratorium on executions, so AkA's death sentence now sits in limbo. Dedrick's name doesn't come up often in Hollywood retrospectives, but in the streets and among fans of Singleton's work, people still remember. He was more than a character with a pacifier. He was a reminder that sometimes life imitates art a little too closely. In one of the last scenes of Boyz in the Hood, Doughboy says, "Either they don't know, don't show, or don't care about what's going on in the hood."
So yeah, that was uncalled for. That was like really uncalled for. I want to say rest in peace to these 2 young men. It was unnecessary. I hate it for the girlfriend. Now she's paralyzed from the neck down, and all this was for nothing. For nothing. I mean, they had already beat him. The dude was bloody, partner had already beat him. They was already outnumbered. They had already outnumbered him. It's the dang drugs, man. I mean, oh my God, it's terrible. I hate to see it. This man, and I think I said his name wrong earlier. John Singleton, his name. But he did. He seen some potential in the guy. He put him in 3 movies. He didn't even get to see the Higher Learning. He was gone before it even came out. He didn't even get to see himself in it. And I'm pretty sure, damn, he probably could have been in all the Fridays or maybe even the first one. He could have been in a lot more other movies. He was just getting started. And his life, he's now gone over something as dumb as somebody cutting somebody else off. It makes no sense. It makes no sense whatsoever. And once again, I want to say rest in peace to these 2 men. I hate it. Even though his roles was small, he still seemed like a good actor. If you go back and watch Boyz in the Hood, you can see the part where I think about all the time when I'm watching this, where they were on the porch and he was telling this little story and they was looking at him like he was lying. It was kind of, it's kind of funny, but rest in peace to him, man. Once again, this is Lil J Show. I'm trying to get to 25 likes. I hope I can. I need some subs on this channel right here. I'm gonna try to post a few more videos on here. I really do want to find the other guy. His name was Lloyd Avery. So I want to find out some information on him and do a video on him as well. But until then, I appreciate you. I hope y'all like this video, and I'll catch you on the next one.